Hello, welcome to this year's Excel Virtually Global 2024, and welcome to my session, which is on Python in Excel. In fact, as you can see from the title, it says Interesting Demo of Python in Excel. Mine is probably going to be different from the one of yesterday by George Mount. Mine is much more tailored to people who already are very comfortable in Excel, but are beginners in Python, and then you want to take what you already know how to do easily in Excel, do them in Python, and hopefully that will help you to ease into Python. Anyway, that's the way I take it to learning something new. I take what I already know, I try to do it in the new tool I'm learning. So my name is Michael Olafusi. As you can see from the logos on the right, I'm the founder of MHS Analytics Inc., which is a North American company based in Canada and servicing clients here in Canada, US, and around the world. I'm also the founder of Your Biz Edge. Okay. I would also like you to know that you can check out my new book, which, I published it this year, so it's still new. Building Interactive Dashboards in Microsoft 365 Excel. You can get it on Amazon, and you will be able to up your M365 game. So how do you access Python in Excel? Okay, let's get to understand how you even get into the game, right? So are you in or out? To access Python in Excel, there are three key things you need to ensure. One is you have to be on Windows. So apologies to the Mac guys out there. Unfortunately, for now, you can't access Python in Excel in the Mac version of Excel. Secondly, you need to have a Microsoft 365 license, and it has to be the paid license. I don't know how it's possible, but then in case your license is not a paid license, it's not going to work. Okay. Then number three is you have to be on the current channel. As at the time of this recording, which is on the 30th of September, which will probably be the 1st of October in some other places. But for me in Canada, here in Toronto, EST, I'm recording this on the 30th of September at about 8 p.m. It's only, you need to be on the current channel as per update cycle, and best to be on version 2407 or later. There's a reason why I say 24/7, 24/7 or later. For some other particular license type, you could be on a slightly lower version, but just so you don't have to worry too much. If you are on version 2407 and you are on Microsoft 365 license and you're on Windows, then you should be good. So for me, being someone who has to teach other people on Excel, I need to be on the beta channel. So I'm actually on the beta channel, and I'm on version 2410, which is like 3 versions ahead of the one minimum version you need to be on. I've also left a link here that is clickable that will take you to the Microsoft documentation of the licenses and the kind of environment you need to have for you to access Python in Excel. Okay, so this is the sad news part, which Microsoft kind of whet our appetite, baited us, made us feel like this thing is gonna be, free and part of the M365 license paid for. And then somehow they came up with the news that there's going to be 2 types of computes, and I can see that there's even something else different if you see the supported calculation mode. At first, we all thought it was just based on the compute. So Microsoft came up with this approach of there's going to be a dedicated Python in Excel license, which is going to require a paid license on top of your M365, and that will give you premium compute. So I couldn't dig further into what premium compute means, but then for everyone who already has access to Python via the M365 subscription, then for you, you get standard compute. So I'm guessing there's a level of activity you can do, and then you will end up utilizing the allowance. That's the way I understand it. Like there's a limit above which you cannot do things, and because all of what you do in Python gets back and forth between the cloud setup of the backend and Microsoft infrastructure, so it's not like it's using the Python installed on your PC. So that's the bad news part. I don't have clarity on that, but again, I've left the link where I think Microsoft tries to keep everybody updated on on all of these details and differences. But for all of what I'm demonstrating, once you are on the Microsoft 365 license, it will work. Okay. So that's the license and things you need to watch out for. So assuming you've checked and you've ticked all those three boxes, which you've got Windows, your Excel on Windows, you've got M365 license, you're on the correct version, then how do you find Python? Because to be sincere, Python seems to be hiding. How do you bring it out? How do you make the crawling Python come out of its hiding place? So you'll find Python under formulas, and as you can see, it's right in the middle. Most times we don't notice it. In fact, most of us don't go to formula menus because that's not how we type formulas, right? If I want to do formulas, I just type the formula. I don't go to formula menu. So that's why most of us don't kind of notice, even if it has been there for a very long time in our Excel installation. So you want to be familiar with looking for it here. Again, like formulas that we write, well, I don't think you want to come here all the time to start the Python function writing. So I'll show you the other tool that we're going to use a lot more. But one thing I think is very vital as regards this particular Python menu in here is the fact that when you click on the initialization, you're able to see the packages, the libraries that are loaded by default. So that can be very helpful to let you be aware of the packages and libraries that you already have accessible within the Python in Excel. So this next screen here is what I think is way more important. You need to install, again, like I say, it's important. That's why I'm using the word need, but maybe a proper word would be it's advisable to install this particular add-in called Excel Labs. So if you go on your home menu and you click on add-ins, just type Excel Labs in the search and it will pop up. It's a Microsoft add-in, so no worries, no fear about you installing something that you don't know if the developer can go rogue. Okay, so with this, we are done with the getting started part, and we can move on to the demo that I have. So I'm going to exit the PowerPoint, and I've prepared the file, which also I'm making available to everyone alongside the PowerPoint. So this is what I'm going to walk us through. I've done it. I'm going to delete what I've done. We'll do it together again, but just so that you get an idea of the kind of tasks that we're going to take on here. So I'm going to close this. By the way, when you install the Excel Labs, it pops up under your home menu. And let me see if I can show you what exactly it looks like at the start. I'm going to close this. Reload. Great. So at the start, after installation, when you click on Excel Labs, it opens to this default view. You get to choose, do you want to say advanced formula environment? This is very useful if you're trying to do some long formulas in Excel or you're using these lambda formulas, then this can be very, very useful. If I go there, if I'll be able to even see some of my Python code. I think that's possible. Let's check. I'll click on this. Great. So you see, I see even the Python code, and I like the way it formats things here anyway. So I'm going to exit here. Go back. Close. I'm always struggling with, reload. Yes. So the one that we are going to use that is dedicated for Python is the Python editor. So I'm going to click on this. All right. So I'm going to close it because this is the solution file. We are going to redo all of these. And this is going to be the task one, which I got from a website, Reddit. So there's this Reddit channel where I think they've stopped, but it used to be really popular where someone posts a challenge and then, everybody tries to do it using, I think this particular one is using Python. So it's very helpful for those learning Python to kind of get some interesting challenges to tackle. So I picked this one where the challenge is to accept any alphabet and give the corresponding number, So if you take it as 1 to 26 for the 26 alphabets, then, in that particular order, you want to give the position of the alphabet that has been supplied. So if I type in maybe O, then this should work and tell me that O is not supposed to be this slow. I hope I've not used up my permissible access level. That took a worryingly long time. So whole 15, and that's it. No. So this one is just a fun task, but these are the tasks that I know we regularly do in Excel. We do the equivalent of countif. So how can you do same countif but using Python? So I'm going to walk us through that. Sum if, and this is using lists. So there are some fundamental things you need to be very skilled at using in Python, lists, data frame, dictionary, tuple. So I try to explore using them, within the context of replicating what we normally do in Excel. So I used, in this case, lists. In this other case, I used data frame. And the good thing with Python setup within Excel is Microsoft has made pandas data frame the default data type when you're reading data from Excel. So when you're reading a table of data in Excel, it reads as a data frame, and that's very good because all the usual transformations we do in data transformations that we do within Python, the pandas library is the most robust library to help us achieve all those transformations on a tabular set of data. So it's just perfect. It's already set us up for success. And then I'm going to do a pivot table. How are you going to pivot a table that's like this? And what's even interesting is the fact that the tables are two different tables. So if this was Excel, you will have needed to do a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP to bring in a region into this data before you'll be able to get revenue by region. So how are we able to do the same thing, using Python? Then lookup, in this case, if you were to use VLOOKUP or even XLOOKUP, you will have needed to concatenate the two input data. So we are providing the sales officer and the month, and we want to get what the sales revenue is, sales amount. So doing this with Python, and I use this opportunity to also show you how when you create functions, it makes your work you're applying the best practices within Python also while you're using it within Excel. So I tried to introduce us to that, and then when we made things a bit more complex, so I kept making this simple looking table a bit more complex for in the next three sheets. So in this one, I've got the months column wise. So how would we have also done the same kind of lookup, but now the months are column wise rather than they being in a side by side with the sales officer all in one column. Then lookup 3 adds one more complexity, which is we've added branch. So the other one didn't have branch. Now we've got branch, so we want to factor in the branch. And the last one is when I had in the conditions to use, I want to see sales across more than one branch. I could pick two different branches, and this should sum up the sales for the sales officer and across those two branches for the selected month. So we're going to walk through all of them, and because time is not our friend, I'm going to start right now that you understand what we are trying to build. I'll delete what I have in here so that we can. Okay, so I'm going to start with the right approach to make your life a lot easier when you are writing Python in Excel. And what's that right approach? It is to use the Excel labs. You could actually go in here to formulas and say insert Python, and it will begin to insert Python, and you even get some demo, some samples, so these are nice, but that's not why you are here. This you can do on your own outside of this webinar. And you could also go in here and instantly type equal to py, and do tab, and it gets you into the Python mode. But it's not really comfortable writing Python within this formula bar. So that's why I'm saying the recommended way by me and a lot of people is to use the Excel apps. So you click on the cell you want to put the Python code. So I'm right here on cell C3. I'm going to say I want to add Python cell in C3. Okay, so I'm going to create a function that will be called letter sum because that's the task. This function is going to read in whatever is in this particular B3 cell. So let's start. As we all know, in Python, to create a function is to use the keyword def. So sum, I'm going to say I require an input. The input is going to be a string. It's actually an alphabet, but it's a string. And then it's going to output an integer. And so you see, it's almost feeling like many of the other types of editors we use, maybe Visual Studio Code or PyCharm. Well, not like it, but in the actual typing, the way that it lights up the different aspects of what I've written. So I see the keyword different from the function name, different from, the other things I've put in there. And the moment I did enter after the colon, it knew that it needs to indent. So it's not bad, There's a lot more that can be done to it, but it's not bare bones, It's got some things to help you out. So I'm going to create the thing to. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. Right now, when you put your cursor on this, you see it's showing some things, right? The moment I put in the function hags, the way we document functions, right? You will see that it also pops up when you put your cursor on the function, and it kind of just makes it easier, since a lot of users of Excel are people who are not supposed to be able to replicate what you've done. That's why we as Excel experts, you are meant to use formulas, and others are meant to be able to consume what you've done without being able to reproduce it. So readability is a key thing. The fact that even though they can't type it all by themselves or understand everything, they should be able to look at the documentation and figure out what is happening. So I'm going to just do this quickly. Compute and returns the number for the provided lowercase character. So I'm going to expand this so I see everything all at once. So what are the arguments? These are optional. It's just that I want to give you best practices. That's why I'm putting this. So input is a string, and this is the lowercase alphabet. And there's going to be one output. So it's going to returns an integer, the numeric position of the alphabet. Okay, so these are optional. Now, why is this useful? Once I put my mouse here, do you see? Like, also comes up as part of the added information for what this function does. So that's why, if you do functions within Python in Excel, I kind of recommend to just make it a habit to do this. So I'm going to say that the function is going to have I need to, first of all, I'm going to use the list in this case. So I'm going to create a list of alphabets. So I'm going to create a list of alphabets. I create it using list and say, so I could do string. And the thing is, this string let me show you something. Let's come out of here. When I go into formulas and I go into initialization, okay, great. So these are the preloaded libraries. Now, string is not one of them. And I want to use string to help me get out A to Z without having to type A, comma B, comma C, you know, that way. So in this case, I will have to import. So you can import a library. It's not all libraries that you can import, but I think in the documentation, the Anaconda, all the libraries that are there in Anaconda installation of Python, I think they are available for us to use. You know, so you have to go double check that. So now I have string available for me to use. So I'm going to say string.ASCII ASCII lowercase actually. So this will get for me. Let me show you how this works. If I tell it to return alphabet and then I call the function. So how do you call a function? So to call the function, I call the function letter sum and I provide, so I want to provide it this, whatever is in here. Okay. So how do I provide what is in there? How do I make it reference? It's called Excel. So I'm going to type in here Excel and then provide the cell address or click on it. So clicking on it also works. Now, if I run this, it will instantly get the value that is in here, provide it to this function, and it will return this last code that I've written here. So if I do save, it executes it. And as you can see, it has provided a list. So that's what this is doing, is has gotten for me a list from A to Z in lowercase. But that's not what we want. But at least now you've seen the third pattern. So I need to get the equivalent number. So numbers, in this case, would be lists, range. I am 1 to 27. As you know, it starts from the lower bound, but it never gets to the upper bound, you know, so it will stop at 26. So that's why I'm doing this. And so if I tell you to return numbers, you're going to see that, see? So we're kind of getting there, right? So what I now want it to do is to check whatever alphabet was supplied and then get the corresponding number. So in that case, I'm going to use a dictionary. So that's what's amazing about Python, the fact that it's got a lot of all these inbuilt tools, inbuilt data types that can help you achieve a lot without you doing anything sophisticated. So I'm going to create a dictionary out of these two lists. So dictionary of zip. So I'm going to zip those two so that they become like side by side. It will be like A, comma 1, B, comma 2. So that way, that's what zip does. And then it becomes a dictionary so that A becomes value 1, you know, value pair, key value pair. So I'm going to put these alphabets in here, comma numbers, and then I'm going to tell it to return the alphabets that corresponds to whatsoever inputs that the user has provided. So if you provided A, then it will give me, let me show you this first of all. If I save this, so you'll see what it shows. So A is 1. So if I provide A to be 1, B is 2. And that's why I'm putting input here, because input is what the user has typed in here. So with this, if I save, we get the answer that we are seeking. So which says it is 15. And you can see that it also populates here with 15. And that's how we do this first one. So see, Python is interesting, right? We're going to use a different approach here. So with that, we go to the same challenge, but using a different approach. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to add a Python cell. So you'll notice that it keeps listing all the cells that have got Python code in it. So in this case, I'm adding Python code to 2 different cells. So for this, the same, in fact, I'm going to copy exact thing we did, but we will change the approach. So I'm pasting it here, which means I'm able to paste, I'm able to use the same function name because I'm using them within different cells. Okay, I'm going to change these to pick from here. Okay, so the approach that I'll use for this second one will not require importing string. It's going to be simply using almost like as we have in Excel, you know, we've got character. So I'm going to use character to achieve this. All right, so A is 97. A will be CHR97. Let me show us what that means. If I do CHR97 and I say this should return that, save it. Okay, it gives a list, and as you can see, that is A, right? Which means 98 is B. So what that means is I can generate a list from A to Z, right? All I need to do is say for I in these numbers, so for I in, which means from number 1 to 27, it should go at 97 is A, so I'm going to say I plus 96. So that way it goes 1, which will now be 97, 2 will be 90, 98. And if I do this, I can use that approach to achieve the same result. See? So all I need to now provide, just as we did here, is to say it should get for us the specific inputs the user provided, which is what I'm getting from cell B8, right? So save these and see, I can change this to Y and it works. Okay, so let's go to what's much more. I'm going to save this. Let's go to what's much more Excel-like. Okay, I want to count in here how many times we've sold barbecue chicken. Okay, which if I was doing in Excel, I will do a count if, right? But like I mentioned, we want to replicate what we already know how to do in Excel. So I'm going to come in here and say I want to add the Python script. And so I'm going to use a concept called collections, which also it's a library. So using collections counter to get the count. To get a count of in this case items, you know, or products. Let me leave it at that anyway, so I don't confuse us. So I'm going to import from collections, bring in the library called counter. Okay, and then we are going to use that on, first of all, we'll need to read in the entire table. So we're going to get the list of pizza. So get the pizza sold column as a list. Okay. All right. And once we get it as a list, we are going to use sum to flatten the list. I'll tell you what I'm saying. So pizza is equal to sum. And remember how you read in Excel records, right? So I'm going to take from here all the way down. Okay. And yeah, so that's that. And I will tell it to take all those values, convert to a list, right? And get me as a list the sum. I will show you what this will do. I think I've omitted a bracket somewhere here, a parenthesis here. Okay, so let's go at it gradually. So I'm going to comment all of this. I'm going to start with this inner portion, right? Which is I'm getting this as a list. All right. So the good thing with every time I save, it will always take the last. It will always take the last. I need to take out one of these parentheses. Oh, great. It will always return the object. So see, this is the list of the entire record here. So what is it that I've tried to achieve? I'm trying to get all the unique product and the sum of the accounts, like the count in front. And that's what this is going to do for me. So I will bring back the original thing I've typed. This is how I'm summing them into a list. So let's see. There was something that used to happen prior to now. That's no longer happening. So this is good anyway. Since this gives me exactly what I want, I'm going to leave it. Okay. So let's leave it this way. I will let go of that old way. So before I needed to put the sum to allow it to cast into what I want. So I'm going to leave that. Then what I will do is get the counter output, which is a dictionary. Okay, so grouped by count, that's what I'll call it. And I'll say counter, apply a counter on the pizza. And like I told us, every time you save it, so you see I'm getting an error here, right? That's why I needed to use this. Now put it back what we did here, which is like remember if when you get values as text and you multiply it by 1 in Excel, how that does a kind of casting into number. So to me, that's the best way to explain this. But anyway, let's go on. See, now you see that I get what I'm looking for. So I hope it makes sense why I needed to do this. It's tricky to explain, but unfortunately, that's the only way I could get it to work within here in the Python in Excel. So I'm going to now that I've got like a classification of all of the products and the account, what I need is now to display only this value and make it align with the pizza type on the left. Okay. So we're going to say the result. Result pizza. It's equal to sum. Again. So now you understand why I'm doing this sum of Excel. Okay. So I'm trying to now again get out get this list here, and so the same approach to values, then dot to list, that converts it to list. But remember, I get that problem if I don't make it just do a sum, which, as we all know, there's nothing to sum, but that's the only way I get to make this display the way I want. So right now, if I run this, you'll see the list of. So I've got the list of the pizza types, and then I'm going to do a list comprehension, and I'll say grouped by count, right? For I in the result pizza. So it's going to get for me what the count is for every of these, but arranging it using what we've got here on the pizza type. More like I'm linking to this, because the arrangement here can change, right? So that's why I'm creating this display approach. Result in result pizza. Okay, so this is called list comprehension. Now if I save, great. So now you see it's got a list, right? And this is matching the arrangement here. I want it to show the value, so I can come in here and or here, better still here, tell it to display instead of the object but the value, and that's what I'm doing now. So it's going to give me a spilled value, and that's what I want. Okay, so that is for the count. I'm going to go for sum of sales amount. So for sum of sales amount, it's it will be here. So I'm go here. Let's expand. Yeah, I can collapse these. All right, so in here, it's easier that way when you watch me type. So I'm going to say get the pizza and sales as lists, using sum to flatten the list. So now you understand. To make things faster, I'm just going to use the magic of recording. Okay. So I've gotten the list of the product as we did the previous time, and then I've also gotten the list of the so this is the product, these are the sales amount. Okay, so what I want to do is to create result underscore pizza. I'm going to call that sum of Excel. And again, using this, so I could actually just copy this to save myself all the stress of typing. That way, I make it order in the very same sequence we have it in this. So in case if these other changes, my result also we align. Okay, so the sales result, that's what I'll call it, is now I'm going to use list comprehension, which is an interesting part of Python that I'm going to do a sum of sales. sum of sales high for high in range. So how many records we have in the pizza type? So that's going to be pizza. Okay. And then I'm only going to sum only for when it is the particular record I'm on, when the pizza high is okay. So that way you get to see easier. So if the pizza high, the particular record I'm on is equal to the result pizza J. Okay. And I'm going to again put this in another condition. So for J in range result pizza. So for every record within that, I'm going to try to show you this. So this is the result pizza. Let's display it here. So this is what I need to arrange by, right? Now, what I'm simply doing is I'm saying you should sum every pizza when it's barbecue chicken. Sum up all the values for barbecue chicken. That's what this is doing. But it keeps cycling between every record. So it does for these. That's why it's doing, J in this. So it does for these, it does for these. I'm going to now let it display. So I'll remove these and you see the outcome. You see? And as usual, I can switch this to value. And that way I get the value. I need to make this format the same way. Great. All right. So this is how I'm using Python to achieve what we could have done with SUMIF. And in this case, I know I've used a really long list comprehension, but if you check out list comprehension, it's easy to understand. It's just that this might take a while for you to decode. You don't have to patiently go through it. So I decided to use pandas for this one. So I'm going to, so at this stage, right, I'm going to start to copy some codes to make things faster since you are getting familiar with the approach, right? So I'm going to show you the code that gets out for me using pandas, the same output. So I'm going to go here using pandas method, grab this code, go here, paste the code, right? And so what have I done? I've pulled in the records, but as pandas, so I didn't convert it to list, unlike here where I was doing to list. Once you pull it in without conversion, it comes as a pandas, and I set that headers are true, and that way I have a pandas. If I come in here and I save, I have a data frame, and it's exactly the original table. Okay. So now that I have that, I could do pivot and I could get out exactly what I want. So this is using pandas approach, and I'm able to get an array that I can spill, and I get exactly the same thing. Okay. So I will move to the next task, which by understanding this, you already have an idea of how to use pivot table, because that's what I used for this last one. I used the pivot within pandas. This or group by anyway. So I'm going to go to pivot table example, and I will show us the code that I used to achieve the code is an interesting code. I'll walk us through it, but I'm also trying to look at time, and you have the ability to pause. So it's better for me to show you the code rather than typing it out, you know, and you just watching me type is like watching paint dry. Okay, so we want actually the code to be in K9. Yeah, not here. I want the code in here. Right, so I'm reading in the region table, which is this table. I'm reading in the sales data, and then I'm merging using what is common to both of them. What's common is the sales rep. So with the sales rep, I'm able to merge, see? So I merge on sales rep, and then now I have a table that has both sales and region, and I'm able to do a group by on it, and that's it. I'm going to switch these to value and see. So that's that. Then I go to lookup. So for this particular lookups, I call it simple lookup, right? So doing a simple lookup is kind of easy, but I decided to use the function approach again. So even though I'm going to type this real fast to use the magic of recording, you will understand because this is what we did. This is what we did previously in the example for letter sum. We use the function, okay? So I'm reading in the sales table, I'm reading in the sales officer name that you want to use to query the month, and I'm simply telling it to do a query. So you could run a query, you could tell Python to do like a SQL kind of query on a table that you provide. So it will be on this table, which this is now that table. Look for where sales officer is equal to this rep name. Look for where the month is equal to the month provided, and grab for me the sales amount. And when you grab it, just give me the value itself. So that makes it easier rather than me having to come here to switch from object to value. If I run this, see, it gets me the value. And I could switch this to Excel value too. But you notice that I didn't have to do that. If I take it back to object, I still get the same answer. That's what this achieves. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next lookup. So this involves the dates arranged column wise. Okay. So achieving this, we've got the same set of inputs, but just a different structure of table. So I'm going to use the magic of recording to make it faster to showcase the function I'm using. Okay. And the same approach, I'm providing the sales table, the sales rep, the sales month. And this time around, I'm also doing the same query, just that I'm only searching for the sales officer name. And then when it gets it, it should get for me the column that is named the month, because these months are now columns. So that's the difference. I'm not searching for a column. I'm not searching for month, but I'm using the month that you've provided here as a column name. And that way it will get for me the item that is in that column for that particular row that is that sales officer's row. So if I save these, I'm going to get that. Okay, and you can switch these if you want to see the impact. You can switch it to a different month, and you will get the correct answer, which was that a day something, right? Date of sweet. This is that person's record. Okay, so it's correct, right? I'm going to go to the next one, and We'll use the same approach of typing things faster, right? So what's interesting in this is that not only am I needing to search for the sales officer, I need to search for the branch and then also determine what column. So this can be very tricky if you are using Excel, and that's the beauty of Python, that even though these are things that look hard using Excel, they are really simple. Why? Because I'm using the same table query, and what I'm just doing is I'm providing an additional, in addition to looking for the sales officer's name, you should also look for when the branch provided, then get the column that is the month column, the month provided, take it as a column name, and that way we get, without having to do any complex thing, we get the answer we seek. So this is Abia 70 for that particular user. I could even switch. Let's test it out. Pick a different person. Pick the person who is first on the list. And then, so that's Abia June 28th. And you see it's correct, right? So the last one is a bit more interesting because what we are doing is I need to sum up. So the same structure of data as the one we just finished, but this time around I need to sum up values into branches. So I'm looking for your total sales because a sales officer might cover 2 branches. Maybe they all cover 2 branches anyway, or they cover multiple branches. They sell different brands across all the branches. So I need to know what you sold into different branches combined. So again, the magic of recording to type this quicker. I've grabbed all the conditions here, the table here, and guess what? I'm using the same sales, the same data frame query, data frame dot query, and I'm providing, I'm saying look for branch, just like SQL query, look for branch in branch 1 and branch 2, like branch where it's either this or that, and that way I'm able to get it. But this time around, I'm telling it to return sales. If I don't put a sum there and I return this, it will give me a series. Let's see. I get a series. So that's why I needed to sum that so that I'll get the one value that I need. So I run a sum on it and I get the value that we want. Okay, so that's it. And I hope you've enjoyed this session. And I hope this helps you to see that Python can be interesting. It takes a bit of getting used to, but as you can see, the more complex situations I face, the less complexity I need to capture in my Python code. And that's because Python sort of already is designed to handle a lot more complex scenarios. So you find out that there are some things that you struggle to achieve in Excel with the regular Excel formulas that will be easy to do, and when it gets to advanced analytics and visualizations and forecasting, predictive analytics, Python is going to just make your life a lot easier. So I'm hoping with these examples I've walked us through, you get a bit more interested in, and take this my approach of trying it on something you already know, and see how that gets you familiar with it, and then gradually you begin to use it on the more complex things that might not be possible to do in native Excel. So thank you very much, and I'll be here to take your questions.